Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me for another knife review. Today we're going to be talking about the Zero Tolerance 0560. This particular knife is a Rick Hinderer collaboration with Zero Tolerance, as is evidenced by the overall style and feel. It is very much so just by sight Rick Hinderer design. So the knife comes in this box. It's a nicely packaged knife. Comes in the standard bubble wrap, and comes with the usual information: how to open a flipper and how to sharpen it and all that kind of fun stuff. The knife itself, let's just go over a few technical specifications. The pivot system is a KVT ball bearing system, which means around the pivot there's a series of ball bearings rather than a washer, which makes it just buttery smooth. This is by far the smoothest knife that I own. As far as the action, it's amazing, and as you can see, it just drops into place. You know, it's super slick action. It is a titanium frame lock. The back side is a piece of one piece of milled titanium. The blade length is 3 3/4 inches. The closed length is 5 inches. The overall length is 8.8 inches. Pardon me. And the weight is 5.8 ounces. I did weigh it earlier, and it was extremely close to 5.8. So for the size, it's actually very, very reasonably light. It's got milled liners, as you can see. Even the titanium side is milled out. So they've really put a lot of thought into reducing weight. Now the steel is Elmax steel. Let's see here. There you can see. It's Elmax, and that is a German steel. It's a German powder steel. It's one of those really high-tech steels. It's extremely high wear resistance, and yet a very high corrosion resistance, which is usually very hard to find a knife with those two properties. And I can vouch certainly for both. I've not had any issues with either. I have been using this knife quite a bit. This is actually one of my favorite knives in my collection. I absolutely love this knife. It's the right size for me. It is a larger knife. It's, 3 3/4 inch blade. But that's what I like to EDC personally. It is a flow-through design, as you can see. It's got 3 different standoffs or spacers in the back. Very much like a Hinderer design spacer. They're blackened, so it looks kind of cool. It's got an excellent loop in the back for if you want to attach a lanyard to it. Deep carry pocket clip, which is a win in my book. They're my favorite type. They do, as you can see there, the screws do stick up, so that's a little bit of a hit, because once it goes all the way in, it's kind of tough to pull it out a little bit. It's really not a biggie in my book, though. Very, very nicely crafted blade. As you can see, it's completely 3D milled titanium. It does have the lock bar stabilizer, which prevents over travel. You can switch that out with like a 9mm casing or something of the sort. I haven't really played with that at all. It does have matching milled G10 on the other side. It does provide quite a bit of traction, surprising amount of traction actually. Now as you can see, it is drilled and tapped for 4 different carry options. Tip up, tip down, left and right. So yet another win. It is a flipper design. The flipper, along with the KVT ball bearing system, works absolutely beautifully. I'm a big fan of the flippers. The flipper then in turn becomes kind of almost a guard at the base, and it fits your hand just perfectly. The handle design is quite interesting too. As you can see, it kind of rounds down, so it's almost a pistol grip shape. So it's a very ergonomic shape. What I might have liked to have seen is a bit of a finger choil. I think that if you could choke up on it, it would have given it a little bit more real cutting power. But really, I think you probably saved that for the XM18. I know that some people have modded their 0560s and put in their own finger choil, but then obviously you're losing cutting length as well. Now I wanted to hold off on this review until I got a chance to sharpen it. I will say one thing about Elmax is it retains its edge very, very well. I was actually quite surprised. As you can see, I did put a mirror polished edge on it. I very slightly changed the profile and put a nice hair whittling edge on it. It was somewhat difficult to sharpen, but in my opinion, it's okay if it's slightly tough to sharpen, because once you get it that sharp, if you stay on top of it, stropping it every other day or so, depending on your use, keeping it honed, it will you won't have to sharpen it very often at all. And I have found that to be the case with this particular blade. Now the blade itself is flat ground. It's not a full flat. It does have a swedge along the top and a drop point design. I really like the design of Hinderer blades. I find them very, very utilitarian. It's got a very nice point. It is a very beefy chunk of steel. Now some of the criticisms that have been leveled against this knife are that the jimping is a little bit rough. You know, I can understand where they're coming from, but you know what, I really haven't had an issue. Only when I'm on the corners do I notice that there's it's a little bit tacky, but overall I think that it's fine. What people have said is that, you know, when they're flipping it, their finger rubs on that, and that's a problem for them. You know, and the way I look at it, if that's really a problem, just use the thumb studs, and it's all good. Also, it seems to be an issue that the ZT symbol on the pocket clip, as you can see, fades. Can't really, if you compare that to the writing on the blade, you can see how much it fades, and to me that's really not a showstopper. I would have preferred probably a slightly more blacked out clip, just because it tends to camouflage itself when you're carrying it. This is very comfortable to carry. As you can see, it's quite thin, but it still has some width to the handle. Overall, I think that it's probably one of the most ergonomic knives I own. It's very, very nice. I use it all the time. This one, locks up quite nicely. I don't like to see the really crazy early lockups that you see on some of the more high-end knives. I don't think that that's quite as strong. I think this is about perfect lockup. About 40 to 50%, I think, is about perfect, and that's what this one's sitting at. Blade centering, pretty much bang on. Overall, this is a complete win of a knife. I think dollar for dollar, bang for your buck, this is probably the best like higher end knife you can buy. I mean, right now this is, I mean, the MSRP is $325, but you can find it anywhere for $260. And that's what I paid for this quite a few months ago. Excellent knife. Light, big enough for what I use it for. I prefer a larger knife. I've got large to extra large size hands, and it definitely fills the hand with a little to spare. So if your hands are a little bit more beefy than mine, it'll certainly serve you well. Now, as far as some other competitive options that, you know, size wise in that kind of size range, I've got my Emerson CQ-C8. So it's about the same size. There's a Benchmade Onslaught. Maybe slightly bigger. And this is, I mean, just for size comparisons, you can see, I mean, the Benchmade Onslaught is known for being a big Mamma Jamma knife. You can see the size of the ZT. It is not a small knife. It is a very well-sized knife. And then the largest of the Striders, the SMF. So as you can see, it's definitely in with the big boys. It's a large folder. If you're looking for a smaller EDC knife, it probably isn't going to fit the bill for you. But like I said, you know, the majority of my knives are that 3 1/4 to 4 inch blades, and that's the size that I like for EDC purposes. This is an absolute home run of a knife. I really like this knife, especially if you can't afford or are unwilling to pay the price for an XM18 or an XM24. This is certainly the knife for you. Honestly, I mean, the price of an XM24, I think, would be the equivalent. It's tough because there is a 3 1/2 inch XM18, and I believe the XM24 is a 4 inch blade, but and this is kind of in between the two. But an XM24 is going to run you about $800, $825, compared to, you know, $260. I mean, really, as far as use goes, I think this would perform just as well, if not better, because I don't believe that the XM series use the Elmax steel, and I'm a big fan of it now. But overall, an absolute fantastic knife. I highly recommend this knife if you are looking for a knife in and around that price point. This is, you know, a fantastic choice. Fantastic choice. Highly recommended. You really can't go wrong. As always, guys, I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.